Now, I want to talk to you about this downhill lie and the challenge that you have with this and why it's the hardest shot that you face. And it is on the golf course the hardest shot that you face. So, first of all, we talk about bringing range success to the golf course. Rarely do you practice downhill lies or uphill lies or side hill lies of any sort on a practice environment. In fact, if you go out to the practice tee and if you're lucky enough to be on grass and you get uneven lies, you move. And if you're on a mat and the mat isn't dead straight, you're going to complain about it. And rightly so. And the reason why is that you want to be able to work on your swing. You're not thinking about improving the area of confusion for you, which is the uneven lie. And it's something that you should expect yourself to get when you get out onto the golf course. You should expect a level lie when you're on the tee, whatever the tee is, par 3, par 4, par 5. And then you should expect to get uneven lies the rest of the way, literally through the green. You should expect uneven lies. And when you start to do that, you'll look for it. One of the reasons why you have a difficult time getting range success to the golf course is you don't look for the uneven lie. And so what I need you to do is we talk about there's a physical component to success in the game of golf. There's also a mental component to the success of your game. And the mental component is looking for the uneven lie, right? You approach a situation, you sit there and you go, okay, how far am I? And you take your rangefinder and you shoot it. It says, I got 175 yards to that target. You don't necessarily look at this and go, okay, this is a downhill lie. What am I going to do on a downhill lie? What you do is you go, oh, this is a downhill lie. I hate downhill lies. And you don't do anything about it and you hit it and then it doesn't go the way you want. And you go, see, I told you, I hate this lie. We got to stop that. The other thing that's so important for you when it comes to an uneven lie is understanding where you have to aim, understanding what shot to expect, understanding the accommodations that need to be made. You don't do any of that stuff when you're on a level lie or on a practice tee. You just don't do that. You just switch clubs. You put your 8-iron back, you grab your 6-iron, and you start hitting your 6-iron. And you don't think about the lie. You might think about the target that you're hitting at. You don't think about how far is this going to go? How is this going to fly differently? What are the things that I need to do? Where do I need to aim it? You don't do any of that stuff. You just pull a club and you start working on your swing. And when you're going out to play, you warm up, you do the exact same thing. You focus on something and you hit it towards that. You're not really thinking about, well, is this going a certain distance? You need to pay attention to all that stuff because that's what happens when you get on the golf course. It's one of the reasons why the range success doesn't transfer to the golf course. And then the other thing is you practice a lot of your favorite clubs, which we've talked about before. Anyway, so I want to talk to you about the accommodations that you make in this uneven lie situation. And then I want to talk to you about how practicing on an uneven lie is going to help you with your motion. So first, an uneven lie. This pitch that we have here is about 3 degrees. So it's tilting down this way. Now, what do we have to do to be successful with this shot? Well, what you've been told to do is put the ball back in your stance. So you step up, you put the ball back in your stance like this. Then what you do is you lean your weight up the hill. So you put it back, you lean back, and then when you hit this, you're going to hit this fat because you're leaning up the hill. So you go here, and you hit it poorly, and it goes fat, and it moves along the left. Or you put it back in your stance, and you lean down the hill because you say, well, I got to get my shoulders like this. So you tilt your shoulders this way. Your upper body is down the hill, but your lower body stays up the hill. So you kind of go ball back, lower up, upper down, and now here, and now you go like this, and you swing from here. This is not a great setup position. And now what you do is you hit a shot. You basically chop down on the ball. This thing takes off with a launch angle of about 8 degrees. It rolls for about 30 yards. And you wonder why the ball came up short and why the ball ended up into a bunker or worse. You can't figure out how it went so low. And you were fortunate that you made solid contact, but it doesn't have the distance or the carry that you're looking for. Now, there's some things that you need to think about when you're swinging, and then there's some things that you need to do before you swing, what we call pre-swing. So first thing is this. In the address position, what you want to do is you want to try to, on all lies that are uneven, you want to try to get your body and the relationship of your body to the ground in the same relationship as when you're on the practice tee or a level lie. So if I have a 3-degree tilt down with this ground, which I have, what I want to have is I want to have my normal address position, shoulder position, tilted 3 degrees down. Now, I'm not saying you have to be perfect here. Don't misinterpret that. But what I am saying is that if I get set up on a 3-degree pitch down and I lean up the hill like this, my shoulders are now at their normal, I'm going to make this up, 6 degrees up into the air. Now, all of a sudden, I have a 9-degree differential between the ground and my shoulders. And that means I'm going to hit it fat. If I was in a level lie, I went like that. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not going to make solid contact, and I'm not going to get off my trail side. I'm going to tend to be stuck back here because there's so much weight up the on the uphill leg or on the trail leg that I stay back here and I hit it fat, maybe top it even. Sometimes that happens to you at home. What you have to do is you have to realize that on a 3-degree tilt, and again, I'm not saying that you have to know what 3 degrees looks like versus 2 degrees versus 7 degrees. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you have to take your shoulders and pitch them down the slope and get the feeling like they're parallel. They won't be, but you get the feeling like they're parallel. So when I take my shoulders and I now feel like I'm doing this, all of a sudden, when I take my shoulders and I lean them down this way, and I also want you to remember your hips, which we're going to touch on in a second, but I want your shoulders to be like this. I want your hips to follow that. Now you can see I'm actually leaning onto my left side. I'm leaning down the hill, which is exactly what you want to try to do. We're going to lean the body down the hill. Shoulders are going to be level. Now, when I hit this, I will hit this solidly, but it's going to go low again. So we're here. We've leaned down the hill like this. Now I hit it solidly. The ball speed on that is 118 miles an hour, but the launch angle is 14 degrees. And when that launch angle is 14 degrees, now what ends up happening is your angle of attack changes. Can you go back and hold that one for me, Greg? So the angle of attack changes. And so for me, what happens is I have I normally am about 6 degrees down with my 6-iron, maybe 5. If I'm trying to hit a draw, it might get shallower than that. But look at what happens over here. Now, my angle of attack is 7.4 degrees down, and my launch angle is 13.8. I normally will have a launch angle with a 6-iron, it's going to be right around 17, 18, 19 degrees, depending upon the shot that I'm going to hit. But it's not 14. So, in order for you to change that, you have to make another accommodation. So the accommodation that you make here is, again, shoulders are going to tilt. Hips, remember I told you, I want my hips to feel like I'm putting some pressure on that downhill leg. So I'm going to feel like my hips are even tilting, which means my lead leg is going to have a little bit more flex in it than normal because I need to get my lead hip lower than the trail hip. It's not as much as the shoulders, but it is tilted a little bit. So what I've got is I've got this type of setup going on. Now I'm in here. Now here's what I want you to appreciate. Remember I tell you all the time that ball position is an upper body relationship, not a lower body relationship. If I set my ball position where it normally is, and then I make these accommodations, what I do is I actually move the ball position back. And so the reason why that flights out low is because the ball position is back, which is why the angle of attack gets steeper. And so what I want you to do is I want you to remember where you want the ball position given a certain club. So with my 6-iron, I want this thing sort of right at the start of my left eye, okay? So when I get into what I'm doing and I get my tilt, I may have to adjust this a little bit. You can see that ball position relative to my feet looks quite a bit forward there. Yeah, great shot, Gibbsy. So it looks quite a bit forward there. But if you come back this way and now I'm in here, now you can see that ball position is sort of right off that part of my eye, the start of my left eye, nearest to my nose. And now I get in here like this. Now, what has happened as a result of this is I've had to widen my stance. And one of the things that I can tell you is when you get to where you are on on uneven lies. The way you maintain balance is by widening your stance. So when in doubt, I like getting a wider stance. I don't like narrow stances. I like wider stances. And so when I get wide and then I get my lead knee to bend a little bit more, my trail leg almost acts like a kickstand on a bike. So I get to here, I'm braced right there. Ball position now is where I will normally play it. And now I hit that shot, and all of a sudden what happens is my launch angle, let's go up to the front on this 4, Gibbsy, so I can show everybody what happens. And now my launch angle gets back to where it normally is. I get I told you, 17, 18, 19 degree launch angle. That's 18 and a half. So I get exactly what I'm looking for there, okay? Now, it sounds counterintuitive to move your ball forward when you're on a downhill lie. And you're also going to be in some situations where you might have talked to a golf professional like me, and they said, no, you got to move the ball back. You don't have to move the ball back. If you move the ball back and you lean down the hill, which everybody's going to tell you, the second they tell you, well, you got to take your shoulders and you got to get them to the slope, that means you're going to lean down the hill. And when you lean down the hill, you move the ball position back. It's already back. And now if you move it physically back more, now it's way, way, way back. And if I go into that and I start to look at where it is in my upper body and I start doing all this stuff that looks like a middle ball position or slightly forward ball position, and now I lean and I lean, now all of a sudden my ball position is off my right shoulder. And if I swing from here, this thing is going to come out. That one there left at 11.1 degrees. It had a lot of spin to it, so it didn't roll out as far. But the apex of that shot was 46 feet. That thing is a bullet. Okay, so move this thing forward. And when I do this, I'm gonna hope to get the same launch angle right in that 17, 18, 19 degree launch window. But also, too, I should get an apex that's near my normal apex, which is about 90 feet. Okay, so ball position goes up there. Now I'm in this position here. So hips are leaning down the hill. Shoulders are sort of parallel to the slope, even though they're not, but it feels like that. And now I hit that shot. Now, all of a sudden, let's look at our numbers of what we got here. So Gibbsy, come on up to the front here, because this is more or less in where I'm playing. One, I got my launch angle at 17.2 degrees. So I like that a lot. Ball speed was really up, 122. I'll explain that to you in just a second. Look at the apex, 94 feet. 94 feet on the downhill lie, 94 feet. Why? Because the ball position was, now this is hard to understand. The ball position was where I normally play it from, but it's forward relative to my feet. So it's normal where my upper body is, forward where my feet are, but because I'm up in here, that ball's going to climb up into the air. Okay? That's how you want to deal with that. Now, any questions on this? By the way, just get it in and Greg will get them to me. Now I want to talk to you about, and a lot of people say, well, where do I aim? And this is that's an interesting question. And the answer is it depends upon where the flag is. It depends upon your comfort with with how solid the strike is. So it's not like one size fits all. If when you do this, you tend to hit the ball a little bit, it maybe doesn't go quite as far as you expect it to go. So you might have to hit another club with it. And in order to get the trajectory you want, you may have to feather the face open a little bit. And now all of a sudden we're getting a little bit of a fade. Well, now I'm going to aim on the left side, maybe the left side of the green. Depends on the club. If I'm hitting let's say I'm hitting a hybrid, it may fade a little bit more. If I'm hitting a pitching wedge, it may not fade as much. And so at that point, I might not aim as on the left edge. I might take this into the center of the green. But you should expect to make solid contact enough so that the distance and everything is the same. And I say same as a level lie. All right. That's pretty much Monarch notes of how you're going to deal with this. And I'll rewind the videotape. You're going to play the ball forward. You're going to set your weight forward. You're going to sink your lead hip and lead shoulder. And then you're going to make your motion. Okay. Sink the lead hip, sink the lead shoulder, make your motion. Now, I want to talk to you about how this downhill lie can assist you with your golf swing. And I mean everybody. So when I look at the golf swing of, well, it's actually my favorite golf swing that the game has ever had, this swing with Tiger Woods. One of the things that you see with Tiger, and I'm going to show you this in a second, is the transition beginning and how the weight moves at the start of that downswing. And so if I take Tiger into his backswing, very wide, great rotation of the upper body. So the upper body is now turned completely. The head is actually moved slightly back. So it's looking almost down the line of his foot right here. If I put a line right on the outside of his head right there, when Tiger starts to go back in the other direction, what you're going to see him do is there's a slight lean and a slide forward. So right now, he's going to get into a position where he's about, I would say, when his arm is parallel to the ground, he's moved about a half a head towards where he's trying to go. And if I go back up here again, which is right about there, and I draw a line on that trail hip, and then we start to go this way, you can see all of that moving forward. There's a movement towards the target that this swing has. And so when he finishes through this strike, now his weight is all over that lead foot, and the trail foot, this right here, looks very, very light. So when I look at this golf swing, and again, my favorite golf swing ever, his backswing is light on the lead foot, heavy on the trail foot. That's what that'll look like. So heavy here and light on that lead leg. And then when he starts to go down, he compresses down, and now he puts a lot of weight. And now this trail leg is looking, it's being used, but it's pushing weight. So weight is now ending up on that forward leg. And now when he comes through this, now all of a sudden that trail leg, look at how light this looks. And then he goes into the follow through, and now it's really light. So what I want you to be thinking about when you're thinking about a golf swing is you want to get light in the lead leg to the backswing and then heavy into the lead leg in the downswing. That's how you're going to transfer your weight. That's how you're going to get out of hanging back. And so what I like to do is I like to use a downhill lie because gravity has a way of helping us. When we start swinging down the slope, now all of a sudden gravity is encouraging me to go in this direction. So what I like to do, and I like to teach my students, and we do this a lot, is swing on downhill lies. So if I swing on a downhill lie here, now I'm not worried about ball position, launch angles, any of that stuff. All I'm doing here is just making sure that when I go through this shot, that I feel my body. You don't have to chase the shot, Gibbers. When I'm done, I like to feel my body over here on left side, and I like to be able to just tap that foot. Let me do this again. So I'm going to go in like this. I'm going to feel like my body is moving through this way. So we go here and then make sure we can tap that trail foot. So I'm right there in good balance, not falling over. Now, let me record one. So when I record one, what you're going to see is how my body moves through this shot. So let's record this.
That's not recording.
It's not recording? Okay. So let's cancel, start this up again. I must have unplugged that. Yeah, I did. I unplugged that, the pressure mat. Let's try this again. Here we go. Start. Okay. Now, Watch this movement here. So there's a really good strike. Stay with it. Oh, it's going to go right over it. So that was a really good strike. That ball left at 122 miles an hour, right on the line, 15-4 launch. Now, watch what happens here with this swing. So I'm back here like this. This is the top of the swing. Here's my head. Now watch the movement of the body going forward into this strike. So I'm moving. Look a little bit like Tiger right here. That line is now right where my nose is. So I've moved a half a head into that strike. And now what happens because of that movement, look at how the club now, as it's tracking down into this ball, it's off the ground, obviously, but still off the ground there. And now in the strike, I'm off the ground. I'm getting a nice shaft lean into that. That one there has a shaft lean of about 13 degrees. So that's going to be piercing out. It's going to have some speed. That's why that ball speed was 122. Look at where my body is. The center of my head is right where that line was. So I create impact right there. And now I go to the top of the backswing. There's the line. There's the movement in. Line. So top, in. Look at how the body is moving into that strike. And now we let this thing roll out. Body moves through. Now look at how light this trail leg looks right here and how heavy this is. And then when I'm done with this, look at that line. So if I go down from the neck right down to the heel, I'm in basically a dead straight position. And now I'm over my lead leg. So it encourages you to move forward. Let me show you something else that this will do. Let me close this up. Now, one of the big problems that you battle is what we'll air quote weight shift. And many of you feel like when I shift, I'm supposed to shift. I got to load my trail leg. You got to load that leg. And so what you think about doing is you think about going like this. And so the body starts to slide. Well, it's very difficult. If I had a wheelbarrow with rocks in it, it'd be impossibly hard to go up the hill with that thing. I'd rather go down the hill and rather than go up the hill for a whole variety of reasons. Well, the same thing is true in the golf swing. It's when I have this back part of this mat tilted up and I'm throwing my weight down there, I'm not going to make a backswing where I shift into this. I'm going to tend to stay right here and now pivot. So I'm going to take some of that body rotation. I'm going to put some in and I'm going to take some slide out. So what we do is we feel like at the address position, I've got about 60%, maybe 70%. That lead leg is got a little bit more bend in it. The knee has a little more bend in it, but I've got 60, 70% weight on my lead foot. I'm tilted down as I'm on my lead foot. And what we want to do is almost feel like we're there and then keep it and then lean into it. So we get a good body rotation in the backswing. We don't we don't push up the hill. We stay in here. And for those of you that are struggling with getting your hips, you're moving too much laterally and you want to get a little rotation in there, go swing on a downhill lie. And when you're on that downhill lie, now all of a sudden you're going to feel some real pressure into that lead leg. You'll feel the hips are kind of forward. They're not over the trail foot. They're here and they stay in there. And there's another good strike. Is this one going to get to no, it's going to tail off. And so now I have a really good feel of how to keep my hips where they are. So now I want to record that. So let's go back over here. Record this. And now all I'm working on is making sure my hips don't slide up the hill there. So I'm in here like this, lean down that hill that way, hips and shoulders. Good clean strike. Very solid strike. That one there at 119 miles an hour ball speed. Now let's see how I do. So in here like this. So that's about where my hip is. Club goes back. So there I am. And it's maybe right there. And what you can see is there's no hip over here. There's the hip right here. So that's what I want. I want to have my hip inside there. And you can see, by the way, if I take my hip and I draw a line straight down from there, that's going to be inside that trail foot. And now I can see the pressure of that lead leg. Now, you got to get used to what that feels like. And then all of a sudden, you're going to start striking the ball really solidly. You're going to hit the ball first, and then you're going to hit the ground. You're going to take a divot properly. That's how you do that. Now, watch what happens, how free it is now for me to be able to move forward. So here's the hip right there. And now I start to go into this. Look at how that trail hip, the entire body is now moving forward. And then again into that very straight up and down position with that lead leg. So that's going to help you understand how to move the hips properly. It's a wonderful little drill for you, and something that I know is going to assist your performance. Okay. All right. So what we have is we have an understanding of how that downhill lie is going to allow you to rotate your body properly. It's also going to allow you to understand how to get the body to go down the hill or towards the target. And then finally, what's going to happen is this. You're going to start to understand, and I explained this to you before, how that angle of attack, when I showed you that picture, 7.5 degrees of downward strike on that, you're going to start to get a little bit more ball first contact. And the reason why is that if you think about this, in this situation with the back part of the property or the stuff behind the golf ball being higher than the stuff in front, you got to avoid this, which means you have to have a steeper angle of attack. Well, when you start to get set up properly and you start to swing properly, what you're going to get is you're going to get a steeper angle of attack. Let me get a ball here. And that will be reflected in a couple of different ways. One, you'll start to see the ball pierce out a little bit lower, right? So my launch angle is going to come down a little bit. Now, it's not going to be necessarily when you do this, and we're not making accommodations. So I'm not making a ball adjustment here. I'm just working on this motion. What you're going to see is that ball is going to launch at lower than what your normal launch angle would be. And you might not know that it's 17, 18, or 19 degrees, but you do know when you look up, when the ball is not where you want it to be or where it used to be, it's actually lower than that. You know that you launched it a little bit lower. So we get in here like this, and now you're going to feel all that stuff. So that rotation is going on. The motion is going on in here. And now I strike that one there. This one's coming out at about 14 degrees. A very low pierce. So come on up here to the front, Gibbsy, if you would. So here we go. We got a 14-degree launch angle right here. And what you can see is that as that's coming out a little bit lower, now my ball speed is up there. Again, I'm normally with a 6-iron, and it's getting faster for me nowadays. I used to be 115, and now it seems to be sort of in that 118, 119, 120 range. Well, now I'm getting 122, so my golf ball is going about 185 yards in the air, which is pretty good for a 6-iron and a 60-year-old guy. And so as you start to understand what you're doing with this downhill lie and how it's going to help you with your golf swing, make some practice swings. And you can do this on the golf course. Make some practice swings on the downhill lies, and you'll start to feel the hips not sliding up the hill, the body moving in that direction, the angle of attack getting a little bit better. When all that happens, now all of a sudden what you've got is you've got an opportunity to shoot lower scores. You'll be making more solid contact. You'll be hitting the golf ball more predictable distances, which is going to get you up around the hole or certainly around the green. And that's going to help eliminate some higher scores for you.